Welcome back everyone, thanks for tuning in for another brand new video, and today I'm going over my latest CGC slab comic book haul that I have been waiting for since San Diego Comic-Con, at least for most of the books. There are two books that have a different story that I will talk about at the end, but 10 of the 12 books here were all submitted at San Diego Comic-Con, and for the most part, these submission times and return times are pretty normal given the amount of books that CGC does get at a major convention like San Diego Comic-Con, which I think it's their biggest time of year for submissions. But you know what? I've been a loyal and happy customer with CGC for a number of years now. I've had hundreds of books slabbed and bought and sold and in and out of my collection that I wouldn't really go with any other company or any other way. Let's go ahead and take a look at the books, and I'll just be going through the books really quickly, not talking too much about it unless there is some kind of story to share about it. And the first one we have here is the Wolverine Limited Series number 1 from 1982. This came back a 9.4. I had initially purchased this as a 9.6. It was already slabbed, and I had it signed by the first set of signatures were John Romita, Len Wein, Chris Claremont, Joe Rubinstein back in 2017, and that was the help of Desert Wind Comics and or Celestial Comics, depending how you know them as. Chandler and Sharon were a huge help with this book. I think it came back as a 9.4. I didn't have it pressed. I'm not upset about that at all. And then this year at San Diego Comic-Con, I submitted the book again for the Frank Miller signing, and it stayed as a 9.4. I didn't have it pressed again. I was okay with the grade, and the signature placements were great. The slab looks great. Everything about it looks fantastic. I'm super happy with it, and nothing really to complain about on this book. Next up, we have Action Comics number 485. This came back as a 9.4, and this was also signed by Neil Adams at San Diego Comic-Con. And I've wanted this book signed and slabbed for some time, and Neil's signing prices have kind of been out of reach lately. You know, I'd rather go to Jim Lee and have more options for books just that I collect, or even, you know, have more opportunities, because usually Jim will have like one free sig or other options available, or even just any artist and creator in general. It's usually 3 or 4 or more signatures for the price of Neil. Not to dismiss or say anything bad against Neil and his legendary work, but sometimes the cost is just out of your reach. And some of these books I was able to have graders notes come through with CGC, and I just got lucky with some of these, so I'm pretty happy with them. For this one, the only grader notes that it said was a light spine stress and lines to the cover. I'm sure maybe if I had it pressed, maybe the spine stress would be taken out and maybe it would go up a little bit, but I don't really have anyone else to add to this book. Actually, Joe Rubinstein, I can't add him, so maybe if I do that, then I'll go ahead and have it pressed in that situation. Batman 234 from 1971. I actually bought this book raw, and it was actually, no, I'm sorry, I bought it graded at an 8.5 from Torpedo Comics. They are located in Las Vegas, in case you haven't heard, and I'll put their link down below, and I'll also put Sharon and Chandler's link for Desert Wind Comics down below. This book was going great. I was expecting it to come back at least an 8 still, just because of the handling, if not, you know, staying at an 8.5. Unfortunately, when I set up the signing bag and board for Neil to sign, he wasn't too happy with my placement. I want to say I maybe did a window over here or maybe somewhere around here near his feet, and he wanted to sign where he did down here. Now, when he did that, he took the book out of the bag, which was fine. When I was putting the book back in the bag, sorry, I can't talk right now, the window box caught the cover of the book, I think right there, that might be where it is, and actually caused a little tear in the cover. You know, sometimes I just wish these creators would sign where you wanted to. Again, not trying to bash Neil, but I could have had one less rip in this book if that was the case, and that's just kind of where we came. So I'm actually surprised it didn't drop more. Maybe the tear wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it's an iconic cover. I'm still happy with the grade, happy to have it gold label. So this one said multiple tear, full bottom of front cover, which is the one I just mentioned, stain on the top of back cover and stain top front cover. I can't actually see the stain, and I'm not really looking too close at it. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm sure the stain is there, but I can't really see it. And then on the back, there are some other issues that weren't mentioned, but The stain, I'm not 100% sure. Again, a lot of these issues can only be seen once the book is raw or in person, or microscopes and glasses and better vision. And I mean, I have 20/20 vision, but still, again, I'm not upset about it. The tear is really what caused the issue on this book. Next up, I have Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 156 from 1973. And this came back as a 6.5 with off-white to white pages. Simple book, nothing too crazy about it. Now, the reason I actually had this one graded, and I hope I can fit both of these in my tiny light box. As you know, or if you do know from my past CGC videos or just knowing me in person, I collect some of these Lebanese edition Superman books as well. And hopefully that can stand. Okay, that's good enough for now. And this is the Lebanese version of Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 156. That one is Superman number 714 from 1991. And this is something my dad actually collected back when he was in Lebanon before he came to America. He collected the ones a little bit before 1991, but it was still something that came when I purchased the older issues that my dad collected, and this was just part of a set that the seller was happy to include. I figured, why not? Let me go ahead and grab the American version and have them both graded. As you can see, there are some subtle differences, and one thing you can't see from it being graded, the book actually opens from left to right instead of right to left, so that's something pretty unique. And I do believe, and if I didn't mention it, that did come back 7.5, as you can see. I do believe these both had grader's notes. Let me look at those. The Lebanese Superman came back with a light creasing to cover, light foxing to cover, and light spine stress lines to cover. And Jimmy Olsen number 156, the American version, had a medium crease on the right bottom of the front cover. There are some color breaks, some spine stress and lines, breaks color, and a tear on the right top of the back cover. So some issues that really brought the grades down, which again, not too big of a deal. I don't expect a perfect world where there will be exact grades, but I think they both look beautiful anyway and make a perfect pair. Lately, I've been kind of on a Thor kick. Thor is actually one of my favorite comic book characters, and this is another beautiful book that I picked up from Torpedo Comics. I don't think I got it at San Diego. I want to say I bought this back at WonderCon if I'm not mistaken, but I did buy it raw and went ahead and submitted it. I knew it was going to be a super low grade. Nothing upset about that because obviously the lower the grade, the cheaper. It's still a great book. The cover is still pretty much intact other than a tear in that corner, a few creases here and there. So this is Journey into Mystery number 89. This is the origin of Thor retold with a classic cover. This is of course the Stan Lee and Larry Lieber stories, and this came back as a 2.0. I think, yeah, this one did have some grader notes as well. Moderate creasing to cover, moderate pieces cut, or moderate pieces out to cover, moderate spine stress lines to cover, moderate staining to cover, and moderate tears to cover. Most of this is due to the cover, and let's take a look at the back. The back is actually in decent shape, pretty dirty, a few creases here and there, and again, the grader's notes don't tell you every little detail and every exact thing, and I think there's a stain on the bottom, so you know, just one more thing to add to the low grade, of course. Here is a grade that I am super astonished by, only because I really didn't expect this to come back as a 9.8. It's just a book I've had for some time. I love the cover of it. It's a great story. It's the anniversary issue, Brave and the Bold number 200 from 1983. It's the last issue, a 16-page preview featuring the first appearance of Batman and the Outsiders. And I just thought it's a great book, and lo and behold, it came back as a 9.8. And it's even more beautiful than I thought it was when it was raw. Super happy with it, not much to say, just it's a great edition. Action Comics number 473 from 1977. This is the Phantom Zone villain's appearance in the Action Comics and Superman universe. And this was actually a story arc, if I recall, from 471 and 472. I believe I have 471, and I've been trying to search for all of them in the 9.6 grade, only because my first issue was 9.6, and I figured I'd keep the trend going. But that's actually become more difficult than I thought. I might as well just have them slabbed and have them all together, and I still need the last issue anyway, and this did come out as a 9.0. It looks like a great book, and I'm just happy that I have it. And then here we have World's Finest Comics number 199 from 1970. This came back as an 8.5. This was a Superman vs. Flash, the conclusion of the Superman vs. Flash race with a Guardian's appearance. And the notes on this one read, a crease to the right center of the front cover, light spine stress lines to cover, wear on the right bottom of front cover. Another book that I didn't expect to have such a high grade, and I've actually been trying to collect the Superman races. I believe he's only raced the Flash. I can't, for some reason I'm either forgetting or I'm thinking that there were other covers that he raced other people, but I know there were quite a few covers where Superman and the Flash raced, so I'm hoping to collect most, if not all, of those books. Here we have another low-grade book that I've just had in my collection and I've wanted to be graded because I think it's a fantastic cover and you can't really go wrong with Superman or Action Comics. This is Action Comics number 425 from 1973. Came back as a 3.5 with cream to off-white pages. The grader's notes read, heavy multiple split spine and multiple shadow back cover. This one unfortunately did come back with a little quality control on the case, which I'll see if I can zoom in on. There we go, if we can see that. So there is a little crack, scratch, something or other on the case. Now, before all you psycho CBCS people start attacking CGC about this, let me tell you, in all the years and in all the books I've had, this is the only time I've ever had a quality control issue like this. I think one other time I've had a label issue where they spelled someone's name wrong that signed the book, but this is the only time I've ever had an issue like this. Do I need to get a new case? No. Will I? Probably. Am I in a rush to do it? Not at all, because it's not damaging the book. I have nothing to worry about seeping in. It's okay with me. It happens. It's some literal human mistake. Now, because they did mention there were some issues in the back, I can see all on the edges. That's where the color differentiation is. So that's probably a big issue that came with the low grade on this book. Now, I have two more books to present today, and these are two books that I had originally submitted for the Stan Lee signing before he passed away with Desert Wind Comics. Unfortunately, I had submitted these a little bit too late in the game, and I was expecting them to be signed only because of the updates being sent out. I figured, you know what, if I have the chance, I'll send the book in, but just with all the logistics and, as you all know, the issues and the lawsuits that were going on, he sadly could not get to my book before he did pass, which is okay. I'm sure I can find the book signed by him later on. But I told Desert Wind and Celestial to go ahead and keep this book and the next book and the last book I'm about to show, and have them add some other creators. So this is The Amazing Spider-Man number 44 from 1967. This is the second appearance of the Lizard, and I actually like this cover more than the first appearance of the Lizard. This came back as a 4.5 off-white to white pages, the Stan Lee story and John Romita cover and art. And I had John Romita sign this. He signed this back in March of 2019. We did have some communication issues between myself and Desert Wind, along with the delay and issues with the Stan Lee signing and just whatever else was going on and shipping and everything. So luckily, recently, I made contact with them and they were able to send these books out. They came safe and sound, nothing to complain about there, and I'm happy to have my book back. And last but not least, this is another book that adds to my Thor collection that I mentioned earlier, but it also adds to my astonishment in the grade because I wasn't expecting such a high grade. This one was the second book from Desert Wind Comics that did come back from over a year ago now. I want to say summer of 2018 is when I had originally submitted these books, but this is Giant Size Thor number 1 from 1975. It's the only issue, so this was signed by Joe Sonat, December of last year, and this came back as a 9.0 with white pages, so I'm super happy with it. I love these one-off and one-shot Thor books that they had. I think I also have the Tales of Asgard book. That's also a beautiful book that I was able to get signed and graded, so I'm super happy with it. And with that, this concludes the CGC collection overview. If you have any questions about CGC grading or comic book collecting or just my books in general, feel free to leave those questions down below. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe and follow all my pages and stay tuned for the next video.